Hi again. Um, I'm a real alcoholic. This is Fit for Study. I got cut off on the last video. It was so I'm going to the bottom of page 43. We've also seen men and women who go power mad, who devote themselves to attempting to rule their fellows. Top of page 44. These people often throw to the winds every chance for legitimate security and a happy family life. Those are control freaks. I'm a recovering control freak. Whenever a human being becomes a battleground for the instincts, there can be no peace. A battleground is where there's strife and conflict. Okay, and the instincts are behavior patterns, thoughts, feelings. But that is not all of the danger. Every time a person imposes his instincts unreasonably upon others, unhappiness follows. So every time a person forces his wants and needs unreasonably and unfairly upon others, unhappiness follows. If the pursuit of wealth tramples upon people who happen to be in the way, then anger, jealousy, and revenge are likely to be aroused. So, if someone's chasing the almighty dollar and you step on someone's toes, you cut them out of their promotion or whatever, that person's going to be mad, jealous, and revenge is wanting to hurt someone back. It's retaliation, you know, are likely to be awoken. So as human beings, we all make a lot of mistakes. We accidentally step on the toes of our fellows, and then they retaliate seemingly without provocation, the big book says, but invariably we find that at some time in the past we have made decisions based on self, which later on placed us in a position to be hurt. Okay, so we look at where we're at fault. Okay, even if we can see the other person's fault, we can never point it out to them. Never. I mean, you'd have to be super close, someone who's in recovery that's not going to be offended, because if they get offended, the walls will go up. But we do accidentally step on people's toes, and one of the hardest ever things ever for me is to say, I was wrong. Even maybe I was wrong. Pride. If sex runs riot, there's a similar uproar. Demands made upon other people for too much attention or protection and love can only invite domination and revulsion in the protectors themselves. I'm not sure. I'm going to go back because I'm not sure if God done this or if someone else done it to me that is monitoring me because they don't want anyone to know. I guess it doesn't really matter. I won't put my personal shit out there. So no, don't worry. I won't tell on you what you done to me. Don't worry. I won't tell your little dirty secrets. That's all they was worrying about. Not me. But it helps. It really helps if you care. If you care. If I care that I hurt someone else, genuinely do not want to hurt other people, okay? Then it really helps. It's hard to really care about someone when you feel like they're attacking you and you're defending yourself. And especially when you've been attacked your entire life, always be on the defensive. If Pursuit of wealth tramples upon people who happen to be in the way. Anger, jealousy, and revenge. Okay? So, if you steal money from someone because that's your number one thing, like everyone operates out of something. We're all human. Some people live their lives for money. Some people live their lives for attention, aka love. Some people live their lives for just to have security so their needs are met and they don't ever have to worry about their needs being met. Some people live their lives for pride and ego. They want to be a big shot. Yeah, everybody's got their MO, their modus operandi. What's your motive? Okay. Some people really literally do believe that life is a game and that if you die with the most money, you win, and they don't care if they steal your inheritance or not because they don't have a God in their life. And to those people, I will say, you cannot buy the kingdom of heaven. You can't. You can't steal it from someone. And you can't buy God. He's not for sale, He's only for free. So if you choose money over God, that's not my fault. Reap what you sow. God knows I've paid my karma. So if sex runs riot, there's a similar uproar. Am I still recording? Let's make sure. The same thing, okay? If you put sex first before love, sex before money, sex before your standing in the community, then all those other things are going to suffer. So, wow, what do we put first? So if you're running around having sex with whoever, not caring about how anyone feels, and just saying, "Oh, that's okay. It's just free love, and we can all just have sex with everyone else," um, and then wonder why you're having problems. Okay, that's because you're talking about basic instincts. I'm not going to go further into that. Hopefully, you have a sponsor. Demands made upon other people for too much attention, protection, and love can only invite domination or revulsion in the protectors themselves. Two emotions quite as unhealthy as the demands which evoked them. So, I'm trying to manipulate or control another human being to feed my need for attention, um, emotional security, protection, physical security, and love, emotional security. Attention then would be social security. Can only invite control and disgust in that person. That's what I'm doing if I'm trying to be too dependent on another human being. I didn't know that, but I know it now. Two emotions quite as unhealthy as the demands which evoke them. When an individual's desire for prestige, which means status, I want to be the head honcho, I want to be the most important person, I want to, you know, when it becomes uncontrollable, whether in the sewing circle or at the international conference table, other people suffer and often revolt. So I a lot of us are quite very much loners. I have a lot of serious social handicaps, and and I got a problem with pride. So having and developing healthy, workable relationships as a recovering alcoholic or addict is going to be challenging. It's going to take time, and it's going to take willingness And it's going to take a working the spiritual principles of the steps and the traditions in your relationships. It's hard. It's a lifelong thing. This collision of instincts can produce anything from a cold snub to a blazing revolution. Okay, so the collision is a conflict. This person wants this and you want this. They're not going to get their way. You're not going to get your way because it's not working. We all know what that is. Whether you're an alcoholic or not, you know what that is. So, cold snub is I'll just completely ignore you because, to a blazing revolution is a forcible overthrow. So, when someone's trying to climb to the top of the heap and they're stepping on you, you're either going to not acknowledge their existence or you're going to try to take them down a peg and humble them. Those are the unhealthy ways to respond to that. And these are some examples, okay? So in these ways, we're set in conflict not only with ourselves, but with other people who have instincts too. So now it's not all about me today. Now it's about how do I become the best version of myself by eliminating the worst of my character defects and learning how to live in harmony with God and my fellow human beings and be as helpful as I can without hurting anyone. That's the whole ball of wax. Alcoholics especially should be able to see that instinct run wild in themselves is the underlying cause of their destructive drinking. So now the big book talks about, we got to get down to causes and conditions, man. And and then it's back to at the time of these occurrences, it caused violent twists and discolored our personalities, created behavior patterns and thought patterns and thinking and feelings that were just automatic responses that we're unaware of, that we all have, whether you know it or not. But that was the cause of my drinking because well, and I'll say it again. I had to stop this and re-record this, but I'm going to say it again. When you're raised like I was raised in the generation that I was raised in, there was no such thing as emotional regulation. There was no such thing as uh, validation and basically any negative emotion was punished. If you're mad and you throw a fit, you get punished. If you are crying, they might give you a little bit of attention, but if they don't know how to help you calm down because they don't know what emotional intelligence is, they're finally going to get pissed off and say, shut up or go to your room. And it used to be, I'll give you something to cry about, Generation X. And then go play outside and leave me alone. Don't come home until the lights turn on, but if you're not here by the time the lights turn on, you're going to get a whipping or you're not going to get dinner or whatever. We all had that basic childhood, okay? So the things that happened to us in the past and in our childhood especially and particularly that we didn't ever learn how to deal with, we have to go back into our past and reparent ourselves and feel those feelings and work through them with another human being because the solitary self-appraisal is insufficient. You can't do it alone. You must have help. We got to have help. Those are the causes. Is the underlying cause. Instincts run wild. We didn't even, I don't even know what an instinct was. Our understanding of instincts we've learned more since I was a kid. We've learned a lot more. I don't think I can't keep up. We have drunk to drown feelings, character defects, twisted emotions, warped thinking, of fear, frustration, and depression. We've drunk to escape the guilt, feeling of passions, a feeling or desire, and then drunk again to make more passions or feelings possible. So there is saying right there, we didn't know how to handle our feelings, our emotions. We were driven by, I lived my life based on my emotions. I thought if I got everything that I wanted and needed, that I would be happy. And I didn't realize that that's the opposite way to do it. So until I can learn how to calm myself down, because I can't think right. If I'm stuck in fight or flight mode, always trying to get the next thing, I can't think. And we used to say, follow your heart. There's got to be a balance between our head and our heart. So in the program, I like to say, we get into our head, to our heart, to our hands, to our feet. And that's the way the program spreads for me. I find out what it means, and then it travels down to my heart, and then I understand it a little bit. I feel it, okay, and then I can actually start doing stuff, and then I can, in my feet and my hands, help another human being. We have drunk for vainglory, which is pride, ego, that we might the more enjoy foolish dreams of pomp and power. I'm not even looking that word up. This perverse soul sickness, and I looked up soul sickness, it is demoralization. And I think there's another part in the big book that talks about demoralization. Going against everything that I believe to be right in my life. Going against the best way I can say it is not pleasant to look on. Instincts on rampage, balk at investigation. Um, Instincts run wild, balk whenever you try to figure them out or look at them. It's like whenever you look at it, it disappears. That's why I need someone else to help me see me. Because when I look at it, it doesn't look the same. I don't see it. Someone else can see it because I'm too close. Word balk means in baseball, balk is an illegal motion made by a pitcher that may deceive a base runner. So he's faking it. He's balking at him, okay? And he stops. That's what happens. We look at our instincts. The minute we make a serious attempt to probe them or examine them, we are liable to suffer severe reactions. Okay, we're likely to suffer intense physical and mental reactions. It might mess your head up a little bit. If temperamentally we're on the depressive side, we're gonna apt likely to be swamped with guilt and self-loathing. We know what that is because we feel, and those are more feelings. We wallow in this messy bog, often getting a misshapen and painful pleasure out of it. A bog is a really soft, spongy ground that's hard to walk on. You kind of get stuck there. It's not quicksand, but you can get stuck. Often getting a misshapen, wrong, and painful pleasure out of it. So we can get stuck in depression. And okay, back then, I don't know if they even knew. I don't even know if the word clinical expression term clinical depression even existed back then. And so now we know that some of our brains just don't produce the chemicals that it needs. They need to be happy. And if I have tried to get a, if I have over time used different substances like alcohol to create a false sense of happiness from that pill or alcohol or drug, whatever, um, then I'm dependent, okay, on it. And my brain stops when you quit drinking or drugging. Your brain will stop producing those chemicals that it used to produce, and so in the very beginning you're super depressed. But I cried for like 3 straight months. I've never cried so much in my life. And when I wasn't crying, I was screaming at the top of my lungs because I was in a state of fear and living in fight or flight mode. So we can get stuck in depression and self pity. And then in the big book, in Bill's story, it talks about a bitter morass of self pity he got stuck in. Bill did. It stretched out for miles. It says you can't even get out of it. So we need a friend. You know, we need a friend to reach, we reach our hand out and someone will grab our hand and help pull us out of self pity. And we get out of ourselves and think about helping someone else because somebody always has it worse. So help them. And that'll take you right out of self pity. Misery loves company, so make sure you got good friends. As we morbidly pursue this melancholy activity, we may sink to such a point of despair that nothing but oblivion looks possible as a solution. Maybe I've maybe I've successfully cut any form of God or spirituality out of my life because I didn't want to depend on anyone or anything, you know. And I was floating alone along in a perilous sea. If, however, our natural disposition, character, friend of mine, the way of thinking is our disposition, is inclined to self righteousness or grandiosity, that's a hypocrite, Pharisee, or superiority. Our reaction will be just the opposite. Okay, wow. Look, so if we're normally a depressed person, okay, then what we're going to deal with is sinking sand of self pity and despair. And there's a way out. What the way out is think about how you can help save someone else's life. That's the way out. If you call another alcoholic and ask them how they're doing today, how many years you got in the program. It really doesn't. Because when I had 13 years, I decided to stop working a program, stop talking to other alcoholics, stop going to meetings, stop going to church. I was really too physically sick. And I cut myself off from any outside support. And yeah, so usually we're both. So, however, if our natural disposition is inclined to self righteousness, superiority, grandiosity, our reaction will be just the opposite. We'll be offended at AA, suggested inventory. We'll be offended. Well, who do you think you are to tell me Uh, I'm a good person. If I did anything wrong, they deserved it. And I'm morally upright. Um, you know, That's it. That's what I'm saying. That's the reaction. And I know because I'm an alcoholic. We will be offended. No doubt we shall point with pride, this is the false pride, to the good lives we thought we lived before the bottle cut us down. We shall claim that our serious character defects, if we think we have any at all, have been caused chiefly by excessive drinking. Here's an example. Well, if I wasn't drunk, I wouldn't have done that. The only reason I did it is because I was drunk. Okay, false courage. Now, if I don't drink, I won't act that way anymore. Okay, but that's why a lot of us have to have the gift of desperation when we come in and uh, figure out that we have to do real work, not just fake it. And now we got to really get down to the causes and conditions if we want any kind of a happy, contented life. We have to really look at our shit and turn that finger back to me. And yeah, that's the whole man. That's a big deal. It's, a lot of normal people that aren't alcoholics, they just do this normally, and it's not a big deal to them. It's really hard for us to say, I was, like Happy Days Fonz used to couldn't even say the word wrong. Were created. Okay, this being so, we think it logically follows that sobriety first, last, and all the time is the only thing we need to work for. We believe that our one-time good characters will be revived the moment we quit alcohol. If we were pretty nice people all along, except for our drinking, what need is there for a moral inventory now that we are sober? I think that that is probably only an alcoholic's going to think that way. I don't, I don't, I don't, I'm not sure most normal people think that way. I mean, you have monks and all kinds of religious people that this has been happening over the centuries that are self-examination or looking at themselves and trying to get more spiritual. Not an alcoholic. We don't want to look at ourselves. So there's a big clue right there. I don't want to look at me. Probably an alcoholic. Blaming is another clue. If I have an altercation with another human being and I can't see any place where I was wrong, then I need to be calling somebody and asking their opinion because I can always, always, always find where I'm wrong. Always. I'm not completely wrong, but there's something I could have done different. I could have behaved better. I could have held my peace, maybe not said something in the same way, Okay, we also clutch at another wonderful excuse for avoiding an inventory. Our present troubles, anxiety and troubles we cry, are caused by the behavior of other people who really need a moral inventory. And they probably do. We firmly believe if only they'd treat us right, we'd treat us better, we'd be all right. That's a good excuse, too, because I could place myself in a position to be hurt. I could choose a partner that is a romantic sexual partner that is physically abusive or combative so that I can try to make myself feel superior by looking down at them and use them as a club to beat myself with and still not blame myself or see that I keep putting myself in a position with the wrong partner. Therefore, we think our indignation, which is another word for resentment, is justified and reasonable. Okay, that's called blame shifting. Indignation is annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. that our resentments are the right kind. We aren't the guilty ones, they are. So maybe, you know, there is some truth to that. In some cases, there is truth to that, I believe. Okay, so if you're a child and you were abused, okay, you don't have any part in that. Okay, but if you're a grown adult and you choose to seek out unhealthy partners, we have to say, what is it about me that causes me to keep getting in the same situation over and over again? Instead of saying, oh, all men are bad, because they're not. At this stage of the inventory proceedings, our sponsors come to the rescue. This is the second time the word sponsor has appeared in the 12 and 12. It never appears in the big book as the word sponsor, but as sponsors are used when Ebby Thatcher took Bill W through the steps of the Oxford tenets, okay, and then Bill added the things he learned from Dr. Silkworth, okay, and then Bill taught Dr. Bob. So Bill is Dr. Bob's sponsor. A sponsor is just somebody who helps you through the steps, not studying them like I'm doing. That's just studying. I mean, someone who stands by you, with you, for you, and is physically can be there for you. Okay? Someone who's actually done it before, too. Don't be a sponsor if you've never completed the steps. Okay, they can do this, for they are the carriers of AA's tested experience with step 4. They comfort the melancholy one, which is depressive, by first showing him that his case is not strange or different, that his character defects are probably not more numerous or worse than those of anyone else in AA. No doubt. This the sponsor promptly, immediately proves by talking freely and easily and without exhibitionism about his own defects, past and present. Let's go back. So, a depressed person says, "Oh, I just, I can't finish my 4 step. It's just terrible. All it does is tell me how bad I am, and I'm so bad, and I'm worse than everybody else, and I'm worse than you." Then that's when as a sponsor we say, you know, uh, what my part of my story is, okay, that you know, I used to, we'll say, lie a lot. I used to be a really big liar, or or a philanderer, which is like someone who runs to have sex with a philandering, a cheater. Okay, and I'm a terrible person too. I have my own character defects, right? And it says his own defects, past and present. So I used to be like that, and now, even though I'm not like that, and now, even though I have significant time in the program, I still have a problem with this. And I'm still human. And I'm still human, and so are you, and it's okay. We're all messed up. Whether you're an alcoholic, an addict, or just a depressed person, or just a normal person, they're screwed up too. And some of those are more screwed up than us. So we're not going to make a big deal out of it, all right? This calm yet realistic stock taking is immensely reassuring. The sponsor probably points out that the newcomer has some assets which can be noted along with his liabilities. So, useful qualities. It's not going to be a real inventory if you don't have assets listed along with your liabilities. That's not an inventory. That's not a real, fact, truthful inventory. A truthful inventory will see both sides. Well, you're very good here, but here you might need a little work, okay? This tends to clear away morbidity, which is an attitude or state of mind marked by excessive gloom, doom, and gloom. It clears away morbidity and encourages balance, emotional, mental, spiritual balance. As soon as he begins to be more objective, which means not influenced by personal feelings or opinions, he can be more objective. The newcomer can fearlessly rather than fearfully look at his own defects. So let me think about that because that's what I'm going to need to do. But I've been kicking my ass for so long, I don't even know how to do anything else. I'm about to stop this. It's so much. This is going to be like 3 or 4 parts. The sponsors of those who feel they need no inventory are confronted with quite another problem. This is because people who are driven by pride of self unconsciously blind themselves to their liabilities, which is what I was talking about earlier. Most of us, some of us, bounce in between the depression and the other one. What was the other one? You know, uh, grandiosity. Okay, so inferiority or grandiosity. Okay, we usually going to bounce, so we can fall into both these categories. These newcomers scarcely need comforting. The problem is to help them discover a chink in the walls their ego has built, through which the light of reason can shine. That's going to be elaborated on further down. First off, they can be told that the majority of AA members have suffered severely from self-justification during their drinking days. For most of us, self-justification, which is the act of justifying oneself, especially by providing excessive explanations, reasons, or excuses for an act, a thought, or the like. So I got a reason or an excuse for everything. Here's another sign. Excuses of self-justification was the maker of excuses. Excuses, of course, for drinking and for all kinds of crazy and damaging conduct. We had made the invention of alibis a fine art. We had to drink because times were hard or times were good. We had to drink because at home we're smothered with love or got none at all. We had to drink because at work we were great successes or dismal failures. We had to drink because our nation had won a war or lost a peace, and so it went ad infinitum. There's authentic pride versus false pride. Authentic pride is a quiet, self assured affirmation of one's abilities. False pride is, that's all you get for $1. Okay, Big Book, page 23. Alcohol was a maker of excuses. So in the Big Book on page 23, it says, if sometimes the alcoholic will tell the truth. Okay, the truth is they really do not know why they do it, and that's the truth. And the whys and the what fors don't really matter because you don't have to figure it out really. You can study, that's great. But when you actually work the spiritual steps and principles and do the footwork, the like actions and stuff, you don't have to think about it, it just comes natural, which is a wonderful freedom. We thought conditions drove us to drink, and when we tried to correct these conditions and found that we couldn't, to our entire satisfaction, our drinking went out of hand and we became alcoholics. That's what we thought. That's not the truth. We thought that stuff happened. Like, oh, my dad died. I used that as an excuse to drink. Well, how do I got divorced. That was an excuse to drink. And I couldn't correct these conditions, okay? But that's not really the truth. The truth is that I drank because I didn't know how to live life on life's terms, and I didn't have any coping skills, any emotional intelligence. I didn't have any support system. I didn't have any way to calm my emotions down, and my behavior patterns kept getting me into trouble, and a thought would create a feeling, and a feeling would create an action would create a feeling and a thought, and I was stuck in this circle. I couldn't get out of it because I didn't have any power over my thoughts or my feelings or my emotions or my actions. But if I take the action, no matter how I feel, no matter what I think, if I take the action, I can change what I think and I can change how I feel over time. Action program. It never occurred to us that we needed to change ourselves to meet conditions, whatever they were. Well, no, because we didn't know any better, and I didn't know any better. And it took me a long time to get this sick. It's going to take me a long time to recover a lifetime of bad habits, not drinking, anything like that. I'm talking about thought patterns and muscle memory, even used to doing the same thing over and over again. I can't make my hand do what I want it to do, but you can. You do have power. You have power over your hands. You really can tell it what to do and not to do. Okay. So, but in AA, we slowly learned that something had to be done about our vengeful resentments, self pity, and unwarranted pride. We had to see that every time we played big shot, we turned people against us. We had to see that when we harbored grudges and planned revenge for such defeats, we were really beating ourselves with the club of anger we had intended to use on others. We learned that if we're seriously disturbed, our first need was to quiet that disturbance, regardless of who or what we thought caused it. Page 14 of the big book, or page 447, is referenced. That's the acceptance pages. It's an inside job, man. It's inside out. I was trying to change everything around me to make me feel better on the inside because I didn't know what was wrong with me on the inside. It takes time, it takes intention, it takes action, it takes work, it takes support, it takes reaching out for help, and then you get it. But you can't just, they used to say, you don't get this program by osmosis. If I could hand it to you on a silver platter, I would, but it doesn't work that way. It only works if you work it. You work it. I'm about done here, almost to an hour, and I ain't even. I talk a lot. To see how erratic emotions victimized us often took a long time. We could perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. So erratic emotions victimized us. Okay, unpredictable. So we don't know what we're going to feel from one minute to the next. I'm happy, now I'm mad, now I'm sad. That's erratic emotions. Victimized means to suffer unfairly. So it's not your fault, okay, if you are squirrel caging in a circle in your head. You didn't cause that. And you may not be able to even control that. But there is a way out, and it requires drastic measures. You can take a drastic measure of actually working 12 steps, calling a sponsor. You could take a drastic measure of you go to the emergency room and say, "Hey, I feel like I'm going to kill myself," and they'll help you. You can go check yourself into treatment. You only have to do it once. If you do it the right way, you never have to go through that shit ever again. Never again. I just want everybody to be free. Okay? We can see what's going on with other people. We can't see it about ourselves. We're too close to see. We don't have perspective on our situation because, but we can see everybody else, right? But if I see someone else's situation when I sit in meetings, then I can learn about myself by seeing their situation. I learn about me. But first of all, we had to admit that we had many of these defects, feelings, shortcomings, errors in judgment, personality problems, whatever you want to call them. Even though such disclosures were painful and humiliating. So a disclosure is defined as making secret in full known. It's making something that's making a secret known. So they say we're only as sick as our secrets. And, if it's something that you really can't tell anyone, what you can do is you can drive, to a meeting where nobody knows you and pick someone out and take them outside and tell them what you done and then drive off and never see him again. You can go to a priest who won't be able to repeat what you say. You can do it that way, like people usually do. Or you can make a choice to choose one person. And I'm strongly suggest you pray about it and ask God to help you find the sponsor that you're meant to have. But when you choose a sponsor, make sure you got to choose to trust them 100%. The deal is, if that person has worked all 12 steps, then that means they told their secrets to their sponsor. And their sponsor didn't tell anyone else either. And so that is the code in AA because it wouldn't work any other way. Okay? So many of these defects, disclosures are painful and humiliating. Okay? I don't want to say, oh gosh, that is so hard. I lied. That's, I've stole before. No one wants to admit that. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. This required great willingness even to begin. So now we're making a conscious, consistent effort to only look at our part. We already know what their part is. Trust me, I've been rehashing their part for decades. And now it's time to look at my part. And the willingness is something that can be cultivated and strengthened and you know over time. But once over the first two or three high hurdles, the course ahead begins to look easier, for we had started to get perspective on ourselves. There's two definitions of perspective, I think, here. Yeah. No, there's three or two. One is a perspective drawing. That's like, when you're looking at a different angle of a drawing. Okay. And then two is a particular attitude or way of regarding something. Okay, it's a point of view. So there's a perspective drawing, and then there is a point of view or way of looking at stuff, which is what we're talking about. We want to see ourselves through the eyes of other people, which is another way of saying that we were gaining in humility. Humility, I don't have the definition for. Lack of false pride. There we go. I like to say humility is all character defects are. Having found the shoes that fit, he ought to step into them and walk with new confidence that he is at last on the right track. I'm going to stop there on the page 48. Try to finish it up on the next video. Okay? God bless.